This is my first time ever in Kyrgyzstan and my first time back in months in what used to be the Soviet Union. Welcome to Kyrgyzstan's capital, Bishkek. Right here behind me you can see the beautiful university building. On the other side we have the city hall, everything in beautiful Soviet architecture. It's very sunny, it's very hot. We're here in Central Asia. We have July and the sun is shining bright from the sky. And today I'm gonna show you a little bit around the city. This here is the Philharmonic Square. We have another beautiful Soviet building right here behind the bushes, the Philharmonic Hall, also in beautiful Soviet architecture. I know I'm talking a lot about Soviet architecture right now. I'm kind of fascinated by it, even though I've never experienced the Soviet era myself. I really like the architecture and the vibes, but of course, don't worry, we're not only gonna talk about Soviet stuff, we're also gonna experience a lot of other things. I just wanna show you this beautiful square right here. And this statue up here, the rider on the horse, this is Kyrgyzstan's legendary hero Manas. According to legend, he unified the 40 nomadic tribes that used to live here in the land of Kyrgyzstan. On the other side, on top of the city hall up here, we see the Kyrgyz flag blowing in the wind. And on this flag you can see a sun with 40 rays. And these 40 rays stand for the 40 tribes that were united by the legendary hero Manas. And in the middle you can see the wooden crown. And even today we can find this wooden crown in the middle of the yurts. Because once we leave Bishkek, once we leave the city and enter the nature, enter the mountains, the grasslands, we will find lots of nomadic tribes. Even today, the people of Kyrgyzstan, many people of Kyrgyzstan live nomadic. Though nowadays, a lot of these tribes don't live nomadic all year around anymore, but only in the summer times. In the winter times, many of the nomadic families move to the cities like Bishkek, like Osh, because the winters here in this country are really, really harsh and it gets super cold. So I personally can't blame them for spending the winter in the cities. And over there on the other side of the road we see a huge tourist group. And I'm actually a little bit surprised about the amount of foreigners I already saw while walking through the streets. And apparently Kyrgyzstan is getting a little bit more popular nowadays, especially among Europeans that want to come here to enjoy this beautiful nature and the mountains outside of the cities. And yeah, we're gonna do this too in a couple of days, once we leave Bishkek, once we've seen everything here. What do we have over here? Huge building. I think this one is the parliament. Let's have a look to the front. It seems like there's lots of modernization work going on. Like in many places all around the city, you can see they're modernizing a lot of buildings. Yeah, a lot of stuff is changing here, it seems like. And over here on the other side, I actually see another tour group, another walking group. Yeah, we could have joined a walking group too. Instead, I will give you the walking tour today. And over here, this is the parliament. This is the front side of the parliament. Beautiful. It's huge, very intimidating structure. And all the way up here in the middle, this is where we probably used to have a red star during Soviet times. Now we have the national emblem of Kyrgyzstan up there. Yeah, I have to say again, I am quite surprised about the amount of foreigners here in Bishkek. I did not expect that, not at all. I think we're getting close to the main plaza. And the main plaza is always where we used to have a Lenin statue during Soviet times. Though here in Kyrgyzstan, I noticed many of these Lenin statues get taken down and moved out of the city center, because after all, the Lenin statue still kind of stands for the Russian power when Russia ruled here. A lot of old people, the old generation, they look back fondly to Soviet times. But of course now it is an independent country, and I do understand why they want to take down the Lenin statues and move them a little bit outside of the city center. And here we have one of the most iconic monuments from Soviet era to mark the Russian-Kyrgyz friendship, though I don't think Kyrgyzstan had much of a say in that. And here in the front we can see the two women holding hands. One is Russian, the right lady is Russian, the left lady is Kyrgyz. So we have this beautiful friendship monument here. We're getting close to the central square of Bishkek, right over here. This is the Ala-2 square. And this square here was opened for the 60th anniversary of the Soviet Kyrgyz Socialist Republic. Now we have all the children playing here underneath the fountains. And over here on the other side of the road, look at this massive flagpole with a beautiful Kyrgyz flag. This square used to be called Lenin Square. And we used to have a Lenin statue here up until 2003, when they moved the statue away. The water of the fountains here behind me just feels so good on my face right now because of the heat of the day. Over here on the other side, in front of the History Museum, all the way in the back, this is where we used to have the Lenin statue, as far as I know. Though right now there's more construction going on. So I'd say let's have a look over there and see what's actually going on, because from what I've read, they've replaced the Lenin statue with a statue of the legendary hero Manas. But right now there's no statue at all over there. This here is where we used to have the Lenin statue up until 2003. And nowadays there should be the Mana statue right here, but it looks like they're building a new podium for the statue. And you might ask yourself, what happened to the Lenin statue? They didn't get rid of it, luckily. They moved it behind the History Museum to a more quiet spot. So that's the History Museum, and somewhere in the park behind there, that's where we should find the Lenin statue nowadays. So let's head over there. It really is so much quieter here behind the History Museum. And look who I just found. There we have him. Let's head to the other side so we can see the statue from the front. Down here we have a red star with flowers. And here on the other side we have him, Lenin. Moved here behind the History Museum away from the central square to a more quiet area. And I feel like this symbolizes the post-Soviet shift very well. Kyrgyzstan kept the statue of Lenin. And this is one of the last remaining statues of Lenin that we can find in Central Asia nowadays. A lot of them have been removed. Though here in Bishkek they kept it. They kept the Lenin, they acknowledged their past. They just moved them here to a more quiet area, which also symbolizes the move forward. They look to the future. They're not Soviet anymore. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. So this symbolizes the shift in the country very well, in my opinion. Here behind the Ala-2 square we see the silhouettes of the massive mountains, the Tian Shan mountain range. And Ala-2 actually translates to colorful mountain, and the Lenin Square was renamed to Ala-2 Square because of the huge Tian Shan mountain range right behind the city, right behind Bishkek city. And over here we have another major park, the Oak Park. And in here we can find lots of Soviet sculptures. And as you can see, even here, they're remodeling the park. There is lots of construction going on everywhere here in the city. So many things are being remodeled and modernized right now. The city landscape seems to be changing rather quick right now. I wonder if this has something to do with Kyrgyzstan's aim to attract more foreign tourists. Because this is by far the most touristy country in Central Asia right now. And yeah, I mean, you saw, I showed you the tour groups. So it's not that it's like overrun with tourists and foreigners, definitely not. But it is definitely a few more people than I would have expected to be here, because it's quite hard to get to Kyrgyzstan. It is not that easy. I don't even know if we have any direct flights from Germany. I'm not sure. Here in Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan is one of the least strict countries. So this whole area is Muslim, and also Kyrgyzstan has a huge Muslim population. I think around 85 to 90% of the people here are Muslim, but it is a secular state. And since religion was heavily suppressed during Soviet times, a lot of the older generation grew up atheist and doesn't even really practice religion nowadays. And in general, like especially big cities like Bishkek are pretty relaxed. You can get alcohol here. People drink alcohol. A lot of people here also don't even celebrate Ramadan here in the big city. I think once you go to the countryside, it probably gets a little bit more conservative, a little bit more religious. And I'm still here in the park. So this here looks like an older area of the park that hasn't been remodeled and modernized yet. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. In my opinion, they could leave all of the park like this, like the Soviet vibe, the older vibe. But of course I understand. Eventually you have to remodel something and make it better, improve the infrastructure, to improve the quality of life for the people. I personally, coming from Germany where everything is so brand new, I personally really appreciate the Soviet vibe and this older vibe though. And up here on this monument, right up here, I just noticed we still see a star, a red star and a hammer and sickle. It's very hard to find hammer and sickles nowadays here in Kyrgyzstan. Most of them got removed, similar to most of the post-Soviet countries, but here we still have one. Right over here we have the Victory Square. Besides Alatu, this is probably one of the most important squares here in Bishkek, and it was built for the 40th anniversary of the Soviet Union defeating Nazi Germany, because a lot of Kyrgyz soldiers, 360,000 Kyrgyz soldiers fought in the Second World War, in the Great Patriotic War, and 100,000 of these soldiers fell in the Second World War. And that's why we have this monument here, and it is built in the shape of a yurt, which is so symbolic here for Kyrgyzstan, for the nomadic people. And this monument represents these yurts. And now we're gonna have a closer look to the monument. Here in the middle, we have an eternal flame. And behind the eternal flame, we have the statue of a mother, of a wife, waiting for their fallen son, for their fallen husband. And this is just one of the things I find so beautiful. The amount of female statues, the amount of women we have depicted, because it's not only the men who lose in the war, it's also the women. And I feel like in the West we often forget about the price women have to pay. about the role women play in a war. And in contrast to the West, in the Soviet Union, they depicted these women and recognized their effort, their pain, the price they had to pay. And as a woman, I just find this incredibly beautiful. All across Bishkek city, we can also find a couple of Soviet-era mosaics. And I actually just stumbled upon one that I want to show you. It's right here. It extends all along the wall over here. And on this part over here, we can see lots of Soviet people. And in the middle, we have a woman holding a child. And that's what I just mentioned before. I think it's so beautiful how many women are depicted in Soviet art, and their work is not forgotten. We have it right here. We have the best example right here. We also have some students, a soldier, more women here on this side. And over here on the other side of the mosaic, we have Lenin in all his glory. His arm extended towards the other side, towards the other people over there. And this is a beautiful example of a very well-preserved Soviet mosaic. Very, very nice. Now we have seen a lot of architecture from Soviet times, Soviet mosaics, important squares, Lenin statues. Now it's time to explore something else. I'm standing here in front of the Osh Bazaar, the most important bazaar of Bishkek city. And that's what we're gonna explore now. So this bazaar is named after the city of Osh, which is actually located in the south of Kyrgyzstan. And unlike Osh, Bishkek is a rather new city. So Osh was located along the ancient Silk Road. Bishkek, in contrast, was only founded in the late 1800s by Russians, actually. So this is not a market, a bazaar dating back to Silk Road times, but it is still very interesting. And we can find a lot of different stalls here. We can find a lot of different ethnicities here selling stuff. Here we can find lots of different tea, but as you can see, a lot of the market stalls seem to be closed in here today because it is a Monday, and on Mondays not all of the market stalls are open, but we can still find a few vendors selling their spices, dried fruits. We have a lot of prunes, dried fruits right over here. These balls are called kurut, and it is fermented milk, and it is eaten as a snack here, often while drinking beer. And from what I know, it is also a popular thing to give to guests if you have guests at home. So let's see if we can try one of the kurut balls. It smells pretty strong, like you really smell it in the air. It reminds me a little bit of horse milk. Let's get the translator out and ask if it's okay to try one. Oh, thank you so much. Спасибо. So I only wanted to try one. That's why the lady was so nice and just gave it to me. She didn't even want money. But maybe that's also because this is typically given to guests, and I'm technically a guest in the country, and people here are super welcoming, extremely friendly. I really enjoy that. So we have a little bit of a quiet area over here, and let's try the kurut. So it's very dry. It's the fermented milk, as I told you. Cow's milk. Cow's milk. So this is not horse milk. It smells really strong. I'm a bit nervous. So that is really strong. As you can see, I didn't even really bite it. Okay, guys, this is not for me. This is really not for me. It tastes very sour. I mean, it's basically rotten milk, and that's exactly what it tastes like. Kyrgyzstan's economy is based on two sectors. One of them is gold production, and the other one is re-exporting goods from China. So because they share a border with China, they import a lot of the goods from China and then re-export them further west into Central Asia. That's a huge economic sector here in the country, and there's actually a huge market a little bit outside of the city center where you can find all these goods imported from China. And these goods are, as far as I know, sold out of the shipping containers, directly out of shipping containers. Though this market here specializes on food. You can also find a lot of clothes from what I see. So this market seems really chaotic. I'm somehow in the basement, I think. I landed somewhere in the basement. There's really so many clothes here. Lots of them, as you probably noticed, is rather traditional attire that covers up arms, legs. There's some stairs leading back up. I think I found an exit. Let's head back out. We've explored a lot of Soviet history of Bishkek, and we've explored the chaotic Bishkek market that was a bit more quiet today. So I think we've seen pretty much most of the things here that I wanted to see at least, and I hope you found it interesting, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye!